This Coronation Street twist really throws everything into chaos. Because just as Ben Driscoll is still trying to process the fear of a life-threatening inherited illness, he is hit with an even more shocking truth. Maggie once had a fling with Jim, which means Ben and Steve McDonald are actually half-brothers. In the latest episode, Ben was almost completely drained from lack of sleep after spending the entire night researching myotonic dystrophy. Just trying to pronounce the name of the condition was enough to unsettle him. So it is no surprise that Ben ended up in a state of fear and despair. What he is feeling right now is not only anxiety about his health, but also the terror of realizing that something he barely even understands could take away his future at any moment. That is exactly why, when Maggie walked in, Ben immediately unloaded all of his frustration onto his mother. What hurt him most was not just that his father had an inherited muscle condition, but that Maggie had not told him as soon as she knew. In Ben's eyes, this no longer felt like an ordinary delay. It felt like a major betrayal and a truth that had been deliberately hidden from him. Maggie's cold response that she was not a doctor clearly did nothing to calm the situation and only left Ben even more disappointed. He saw it as her avoiding responsibility, and from his reaction, it was obvious that the trust he had in her was already hanging by a thread. When Ben said he was not surprised, she had lied to him because it came so easily to her. That was the moment the crack in their mother-son relationship became impossible to ignore. After that, Ben went to the bistro, distancing himself from his family and turning to alcohol as a way to escape. That detail alone shows he has no real idea how to cope with a shock like this. Ben is carrying too much all at once. Fear over the illness, anger toward his mother, and the emotional blow of everything he has just learned about his family. So when Steve showed up, it could have been a chance for the two of them to move a little closer. But Ben was clearly not in the right state of mind for any kind of bonding. The moment Toya Battersby casually remarked that it was nice to see the two of them getting along, Ben instantly bristled because he assumed his private business had already spread so fast that everyone knew. Even though Toya was actually referring to the fact that they had both been Rover's landlords at different times, Ben's reaction still showed just how raw and sensitive he was. At that point, even an innocent comment was enough to make him feel exposed and hurt all over again. Steve then tried to ask Ben about the myotonic dystrophy, but Ben made it clear he was not in the mood to talk. Steve was obviously trying to lighten the mood by pointing out that he himself did not have the condition, so it was not a foregone conclusion that Ben would develop it either. On paper, that sounds like a reasonable attempt at reassurance. But in a moment like this, Ben did not need probability or logic. He needed someone to understand the fear he was carrying. That is why Steve's reassurance completely backfired, leaving Ben even more frustrated before he stormed out and brought their attempted bonding session to an abrupt end. The fact that Steve later admitted to Cassie Plummer that he might have made things 10 times worse shows that he is not being careless or insensitive. He genuinely wants to do the right thing, but he has no idea how to reach Ben at such a fragile moment. Steve seems to be trying to build a relationship with the half-brother who has suddenly come into his life, but emotionally he is moving one step ahead of where Ben actually is. And that is where the real problem lies. What makes this storyline compelling is that neither Steve nor Ben is a bad person, yet they are standing in completely different emotional places. Steve wants to repair things and move forward, while Ben is still trapped in shock, anger, and fear. When one person wants to get closer at the exact moment, the other only wants distance, even well-meant efforts can go badly wrong. With the way things are unfolding, it feels very likely that the relationship between the two brothers will remain awkward and strained for a while before it gets any better. Ben seems to need more time to come to terms with both the health scare and the family secret, while Steve will probably have to learn to step back. Stop trying to fix everything with words, and instead show through his actions that he can be trusted. If the show continues down this path, the conflict between them is probably far from over. But that may also be exactly what gives their relationship a chance to grow in a more honest and believable way. If you want to see whether Steve and Ben can put their differences aside and build a real bond as brothers, make sure to subscribe to the channel for more of the latest Coronation Street updates.